It is a disk of clay, the size of your palm, baked hard about 3,700 years ago. Both faces spiral with 241 stamped symbols. A walking man, a fish, a plumed head, a flower. 45 signs, pressed into wet clay by hand, repeating in careful groups, clearly a message, deliberately recorded. And after more than a century of study, no one on earth can read a single word of it. The story begins on the 3rd of July, 1908. An Italian team is digging on the south coast of Crete at a Minoan palace called Phaistos. It stands above the wide Massara plain in the south of the island. The field director is Luigi Pernier. By his own diary, he is away writing a letter when the find comes up. It is his foreman, Zacharias Iliakis, who lifts it from the dirt at around 7 in the evening. It comes out of a basement room in a building northeast of the main palace. Beside it lie burnt debris and a clay tablet written in Linear A, an old Minoan script. Pernier is credited as the discoverer. The disc takes the name of the site. No one there that evening could have guessed what they had. Not the gold and frescoes they came digging for. Something stranger, a small clay plate that would still be unsolved more than 100 years later. Picture the thing itself. The disc is fired clay, baked hard and unusually well preserved. It is roughly round, about 16 centimeters across and around 2 centimeters thick, the size of a small plate. Both faces are covered, edge to edge, with stamped signs. They run in a single spiral, winding inward toward the center. Thin lines cut across the spiral, dividing it into boxes. 61 boxes in all across the two sides. Each holds a small cluster of signs, 2 to 7 at a time. Scholars call these groups words, though no one knows if that is really what they are. Count every impression and you reach 242. One is too damaged to be sure of, so the safe number is 241. And those impressions are made from just 45 different signs: a walking man, a fish, a flower, a plumed head, a shield, a tool, a building. Little pictures of an everyday world pressed into a careful order, the full alphabet of a message we cannot hear. Look closer at the signs, and the first real surprise appears. They were not scratched or drawn by hand. Each one was stamped. The maker carved a set of small punches, one for every sign. Then he pressed them into the soft clay, the way you press a seal into wax. Where a sign repeats, the very same punch was used again. That sounds ordinary to us. We have pressed rubber stamps our whole lives. But in the Bronze Age, it is extraordinary. It means the maker built a kit of reusable characters before writing a single line. 45 physical types ready to be pressed in any order he liked. No other writing from that world works this way. Every other Minoan text was cut by hand, sign by sign. The Phaistos disc was in a real sense assembled, stamped together out of standing parts, and that one simple fact has tempted people toward a very large claim. Here is the claim. A few scholars argue the disc is the oldest object ever made on the principle of movable type. The logic is clean, reusable characters, pressed into a surface to record language. That is the core idea behind a printing press. And the disc does it roughly 3,000 years before Johannes Gutenberg. It is a genuinely startling thought, printing in clay in the Bronze Age. But honesty demands the brakes. This is one object, a single disc. No second stamped text has ever been found anywhere in Minoan Crete. There is no press, no page, no run of copies. The punches could, in theory, have made more. As far as anyone knows, they never did. So this is the typographic idea appearing once on one experimental piece, not a printing industry, not a lost technology. Even among scholars, this remains a minority view, argued by only a few. Most simply call the disc stamped and leave the word printing alone. A striking idea pressed into a single palm of clay, not a settled fact. So we have a message carefully made, Why can no one read it? The honest answer is almost dull. There is not enough of it. The entire text is those 241 signs. One short inscription that is all the disk has ever given us. To crack an unknown script, you need patterns. You need signs that repeat in different places, often enough to compare. The disk starves you of them. Many of its 45 signs appear only once or twice. 9 of them appear exactly once and never again. A codebreaker lives on repetition, on the small patterns that betray a language. The disk hands over almost none. This is not a clever lock, it is a near-empty page. A century of brilliant people have looked at it. The problem was never their brilliance. The problem is that the disk is too short to solve, and there is no second one to help. There is a second wall, and it is just as high. The disk has no Rosetta Stone. Egyptian hieroglyphs were cracked because the Rosetta Stone carried the same text in Greek, a known language sitting beside the unknown one, a key. The Phaistos disk stands alone. No translation rides beside it. No bilingual exists anywhere. There is nothing to test a reading against. Worse, its signs match no script we can read. They are not linear A. They are not linear B. They are not quite the Cretan hieroglyphs either. The disk speaks a sign system that survives in this form on this one object and almost nowhere else. Some have tried to borrow sound values from linear A, but linear A is itself unread. You cannot open one lock with a key you have not cut. And resemblance lies in the Cypriot scripts. Signs that look almost identical to known characters are sounded out completely differently. A familiar shape proves nothing about what it says. No bilingual, no twin, no anchor of any kind. The disk gives the codebreaker nothing solid to stand on. That has not stopped anyone from trying. For more than 100 years, people have published decipherments, confident ones, and they do not agree. One reads the disk as a prayer, another as a hymn, another as a calendar, a list of soldiers, a funeral text, a record of who owned what land. The names stack up. Hempel in 1911, Stawell the same year, Georgiev, Fisher. In 2014, an Oxford team announced it as a prayer to a Minoan goddess, and the headlines lit up. Every one of them was rejected. Here is the uncomfortable reason. A short, unknown text can be bent to say almost anything. Give a clever mind enough freedom in the guesses, and it will always produce something that reads, "A meaning coming out is not proof the meaning was ever in." So when you see a headline saying the Phaistos disk has finally been decoded, remember the graveyard behind it. Every solution so far has joined it. With a mystery this stubborn, a darker question arrives. What if the disk is fake? In 2008, an antiquities expert named Jerome Eisenberg made exactly that case. He specialized in spotting forgeries. He argued the disk was made around 1908, not the Bronze Age. His clues were its strangeness, the two clean edges, the fact that it is stamped on both faces, unlike normal Minoan clay documents. Above all, the fact that it is unique. He even named a suspect, the excavators themselves, chasing fame. Most scholars do not buy it. The strongest answer is simple. Some of the disk's signs have since turned up on other Minoan objects, dug from the ground decades after 1908. One sign matches a clay ceiling excavated in the 1950s. A forger working in 1908 could not have planted clues in soil no one had touched yet. There is one honest catch. The clay has never been lab tested for its firing date, because the museum will not allow a sample. So the case is strong, it is not sealed. Notice how often a date slips into this story about 1700 BCE, around 3,700 years old. That number is a convenience, not a certainty. The truth is, the disk's age is debated. The room it came from was disturbed, its layers unclear, so the date floats. Some scholars place it around 1850 BCE, others push it down past 1400. The honest range covers most of the Minoan Bronze Age, several hundred years wide. The disc was found in a deposit that had already been mixed, so it cannot be pinned to a single layer. The common figure, about 1700 BCE, sits comfortably in the middle. It is a reasonable best guess. It is not a measurement. So when this video says 3,700 years old, hear it the way the scholars mean it. A careful estimate for an object whose exact birthday was lost the moment the room around it fell in. Even the age of the thing is a question. That is how little the disc gives up. The disc is not alone in its silence. The Minoans left another script behind. Linear A, the everyday writing of their palaces. We have well over 1,000 pieces of it, and we still cannot read it either. That sounds like the same problem. It is not, and the difference is the whole point.
Linear A is unread because we do not know the language underneath it. The Minoan tongue is simply lost, and no bilingual has ever surfaced to give it back.
Now compare its cousin Linear B. In 1952, a young architect named Michael Ventris cracked it. It turned out to spell Greek, a language we know, and thousands of tablets survived to prove the reading. Greek, plus thousands of examples. That is what a solvable script looks like. A known tongue, and enough text to test it against. The Phaistos disc has neither, no known language, no second copy. Its silence is not magic, and it is not a dare, it is arithmetic. Too few signs, in a voice we have lost. It is worth saying plainly what the disc is not. It is not a message from the stars. It is not an alien artifact, or an ancient computer, or proof of some vanished super race. Those stories sell. They are also empty, and they quietly steal the credit from the real makers. A skilled human people who built palaces on Crete, ran a sea trade, and pressed a careful text into clay. Handing their work to aliens is not a compliment. It is an erasure. There is no curse on the disc, no code hidden by a secret order, no riddle daring us to prove ourselves worthy. The reason we cannot read it is boring and human. The text is too short. The language is lost. The twin was never found. Strip away the fog, and what remains is more interesting than any of the myths. A real person, with a real message, that simply outran our ability to listen. So we come back to the disc, sitting under glass in a museum in Heraklion. About 3,700 years ago, someone had something to say, enough to carve a set of stamps, enough to plan it, box by box, press it into clay, and bake it hard so it would last. It lasted. The clay survived fire, ruin, and 3,500 years of silence. The message came through perfectly. We are the part that failed. We are the ones who cannot read. That is the quiet wonder of it. The Phaistos disc is not broken, and it is not blank. We are simply standing on the wrong side of a closed door, holding a key we never managed to cut. Maybe a second disc waits in unturned ground. Maybe the lost language one day returns to us. Or maybe the message stays sealed forever, a voice that crossed the entire length of recorded history and still cannot be heard by anyone alive. Clearly a message, deliberately recorded. And still, no one on earth can read a single word.